News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, another publicly traded firm starts stockpiling the biddy. Also, how stablecoins have de-dollarized Brazil's economy. And also on today's show, the Bitcoin price prediction of $321,000 this cycle. Analyst says it's the math. And later in the Ask AI segment, we're going to compare Chat GPT versus Grok, and we're going to get some price predictions on XRP this time around. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, Crypto Fam, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. And Bitcoin is been trading at a very, very narrow range the past few days since the whole ups and downs of the Trump inauguration, the Trump coin, the Melania coin. Now she's pretty much steady. We're going to go through our market watch, our Bitcoin technical analysis, and later on we are going to compare Grok to Chat GPT, and we're going to do what we've done before with Bitcoin, but we're going to do it for XRP this time. I think there's another coin that's got a big upside, but for now, let's get right into our technical analysis. We've got Bitcoin. Again, trading in a very narrow range, going about sideways at 105,200. Ethereum up 1.5% at 33.45. XRP up $3, up 50 cent, 0.5% at $3.13. Solana up 3% at 258 and change. We got Doge up 1.5%. And if we go into our crypto bubbles, we've got the clear winner so far today, the XCN Omni coin, I believe it's called, way up 63%. The Trump coin up 10%. Fart coin 12.5%. OM 40%. Rune 22%. About 75% in the green for the day. If we zoom out to the monthly, we see the XCN way up, 250% for the week. DEX, nothing else really close to that. DEX up 20%, GT 25%, OM 27%. And we see that these two are definitely the big winners. If we go into the chart over here, day, week, month, up simple 2,800% for the year. Not bad. For the week, 250%. And if we go into this other altcoin, yeah, yearly growth 4,000%. But you know, now the price is at almost $5, whereas XCN the price is still 3.5 cents, so there's still seemingly a big upside. Rank 86, market cap 1.2 billion, and OM rank 31, market cap 4.7 billion. So Mantra versus Omnicoin, interesting. You know, shit coins. They could go up, they could go down, but huge gains this year for sure. And if we go to the monthly, we see XCN making a huge move way above everything else at 1,600%. And gets a little normalized if we flip out to the yearly. We've got Doge, a mere 340%, Sui only 210%, and OM and XCN way up 4,600%, 2,700%, XRP 500%, Pepe 1,200, SPX, Jasmy 500. SPX is actually the clear winner here at 50,000% for the year. Let's get into our crypto market cap. We have Bitcoin up a bit at 2 trillion and 80 billion today. Ethereum 400 billion, XRP 180 billion, Solana 125 billion, Doge 52 billion, Cardano 34.5 billion, Tron bringing up the top 10 at 22 billion. And if we go to our total crypto market cap, we've got Bitcoin steady from yesterday, 58.7% of the total supply of all cryptos. XRP down a slight amount, still over 5%. Solana at 3.5%. If we go into our fear and greed index, we've got 73 in greed today. Yesterday was 75. Last week was a 77. And our Bitcoin halving watch, there are approximately just under 1,200 days until the next halving event in 2028. There's 169,441 blocks to mine until then, and until the year 2140, when all Bitcoin are mined, we have 1,184,816 remaining. Once we flip into our total market cap for all companies in the world, we've got no change. Still gold at 18.5 trillion. Nvidia still above Apple at 3.5 trillion now. Apple at 3.3, Microsoft 3.3, Amazon 2.4, Google 2.4. They're so close to each other, the Amazon and Google. Then we've got Bitcoin at 2 trillion, coming on to 100 billion. Saudi Aramco at 1.8 billion. Silver 1.7 billion. Meta at number 10. And Tesla at 1.3 trillion. And currently you can get, number keeps shrinking, 959 Satoshis for one fiat US dollar. And we are up another $5 billion in debt from yesterday, and by tomorrow, this number is going to be over 36 trillion 400 billion. Right now, it's 36 trillion 398 billion 164 million and growing. In fact, it might even be over 36 trillion 400 billion by the end of this podcast. Currently, there is per citizen $107,014 in debt, and per taxpayer $323,046 owing. Little insane how the U.S. debt keeps climbing. Everybody's excited about Trump. I don't know if he's going to do much about the debt. The only thing he could really do at this point is, make Bitcoin the strategic reserve, and then things will kind of take care of themselves. If you really do the math, if they buy 1 million Bitcoins and they go up to 10 million each. So let's do the math. 1 million times 10 million, if my calculator can handle it. And we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 zeros. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13. 15.0. So that would be $10 trillion. So if they buy 1 million Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin goes to $36 million, the US debt is paid. Simple, just like that. Nothing complicated. I'm sure, I just did it in 30 seconds on my computer calculator, so I'm sure someone in the US government's smart enough to do this math. So $36 million Bitcoin, if they had 1 million stockpiled, that would pay off the US debt, and they would basically be back to zero. Now, what that would do with Bitcoin, if they sold 1 million at a time, it would definitely drop the price of Bitcoin. They'd get out of debt. They'd pull the rug on Bitcoin. I imagine the rest of the world would also use the Bitcoin to pay off the debt, and then they might come up with some kind of, dollar to dollar Bitcoin match on the US dollar, peg it against the US dollar, or some kind of USDT like Tether. Not quite sure what the underlying plan is with all that, but I just find it interesting that, it is feasible, right? 1 million is 10x from here. Other cycles have gone 20x. So let's call it, if we're super lucky and Bitcoin goes 20x from here, that brings us to $2 million. And then in the next halving cycle, if it goes 20x from there, so we'll call it 2 million, again back on my calculator, times 20, that would be $40 million. So you see how this is, it sounds crazy, but it is conceivable. A slight chance, but 20x, there's your US debt completely paid off. Let's get into our stories for the day. And we've got another publicly traded firm starts to stockpile the Bitcoin. Real estate firm Fathom, which trades publicly on the NASDAQ, is adopting a Bitcoin reserve strategy by buying the cryptocurrency. Real estate tech company Fathom on the NASDAQ FTHM announced Thursday that it will be allocating up to half of its excess cash reserves to the Orange coin after the firm's board approved the move. Almost half. Now these guys are smart. And further down the line, the company hopes to accept Bitcoin from customers and purchases. Yeah, it added that it would start buying Bitcoin and perhaps via Bitcoin exchange traded funds or ETFs in the next 2 weeks. So, these guys are smart, because they're basically saying, look, real estate tech company. So not only are they going to create a Bitcoin reserve, but they are saying, hey, you can also pay us in Bitcoin. Now that's brilliant, because that would also help them stockpile their Bitcoin. Hey, I'm going to buy a house. Well, do you want to pay cash or do you want to pay Bitcoin? Oh, I can pay in Bitcoin? Great. They pay in Bitcoin. And they just, this real estate firm just stockpiles. The Bitcoin price goes up. Not only did they sell a house, let's say for, $100,000, the Bitcoin goes up to 200,000. So they made money on the house sale and they made money on the Bitcoin. Fathom CFO Joanne Zach said the integration of Bitcoin into commercial and financial strategies has accelerated across financial markets, positioning it as both a hedge against inflation and a safeguard against economic and currency risks in the global economy. Yep. Fathom is a real estate firm that also dabbles in cloud computing services. Interesting mix. It isn't the first company to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Over the past year, many small NASDAQ-listed companies have started following the footsteps of software firm MicroStrategy. The smart people. MicroStrategy first bought Bitcoin in 2020 and now holds over 47 billion worth. I believe it's actually 50 billion, making it the largest corporate treasury holder of the asset. And the firm has been urging companies to follow its footsteps as its market cap has grown exponentially. The company's shares have exploded in value, and MicroStrategy last year became a NASDAQ 100 firm, joining the top 100 non-financial companies on the NASDAQ stock market. Now the price of Bitcoin has hit new highs, and buying the asset has never been easier via the new ETFs. Other companies are following suit. Healthcare companies, Semler Scientific and Cosmos Health, as well as auto firm Worksport, are some of the firms that have bought the asset as an inflation hedge. Fathom stock rose 5% from the close of trading Wednesday ahead of the announcement to Friday's close at a price of $1.39. So it seems to me that any company that says we are now going to use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve is making such a good move. So the stock rose 5%. So now they can take that 5%, and we'll see probably another rise in their stock next week, and they say in 2 weeks we're going to start buying Bitcoin. If their stock goes up 20%, they've already bought 20% of their Bitcoin with the stock increase. So just a brilliant strategy, and thanks to MicroStrategy who started this whole thing. But effectively, you say you're going to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, your stock goes up. You put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, your stock goes up. So it's just this, my stock goes up. Okay, I'm going to use some stock to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin price goes up, then you use more stock to buy more Bitcoin, and the cycle continues. Just a great strategy. Hopefully it continues. We certainly have cycles within Bitcoin. As we see here, there's regular 4-year cycles where there's a cycle low, a cycle peak, and a cycle halving. That's these lines. And then every 4 years, really, there's a big pump. Price dips for 2 years, and then a big pump again. So this is my prediction here. You guys have seen this before if you've watched the show. So my bullish prediction right now is at about 375,000, and bearish is at 223 for the cycle peak. Current bid and ask on the Bitcoin are very, as you see, like you can't get more of a narrow range than that. The ask is 162, the bid is 161, and it's been sitting in this range for multiple days now. It's just right at between 105,000, like 149,800 and 105,700. Just fluctuating within, and this is less than 1% we're talking here, right? So interesting what's going on. Very, very narrow range, and I expect we're going to see something happen in the next few weeks, like either a big pump or a big crash. I expect it to be a big pump personally. Moving into our next story of the day, this is how Bitcoin is helping countries around the world. So how stablecoins are dollarizing Brazil's economy. As the Brazilian real dependencies, stablecoins offer a refuge in the form of digital dollars. Stablecoins have exploded in the popularity in recent years, along with wider digital asset market. Notably, the stablecoin market is gaining prominence in emerging economies such as Brazil and other Latin American countries. Right, because we're talking hyperinflation with some of these countries around the world, but what they can do, maybe they can't get their hands on a US dollar, but they can get their hands on a USDT tether, which is pegged to the US dollar, or the USDC. I think there's a USDS. Basically, they're all pegged to the US dollar. So, okay, I can't get my hands on a real fiat currency, but I can buy tether that's pegged to the US dollar. So if there's further inflation in their currency, their local currency, Brazil, for example, this article is about, then the local currency, might be worth 50% less than it was last month, but the person who has their money in tether doesn't get affected. So let's read on here. Notably, dollar, tether coin, and other stablecoins are promoting a kind of silent dollarization in the Brazilian economy. Statistics on the adoption of stablecoins in the region reveal a growing interest in dollar-backed tokens. Yeah, they should have been doing this for a long time. Brazil and hyperinflation. Brazil and Latin American countries in general have a long history of inflationary crisis. The country experienced several decades of high inflation and hyperinflation during the 20th century. Because of this, investments in real estate, gold, and dollars become popular over time. Brazil's economic situation was stabilized by the Rio Plan, which was implemented in 1994. However, the risk of hyperinflation has once again plagued the Brazilian economy. In just 1 year, the Brazilian real fell by around 25% against the US dollar. Dollarization via stablecoins. Stablecoins are truly one of the most useful instruments in the entire cryptocurrency world. No wonder the sector's market now exceeds more than US 200 billion. Notably, the dollar stables have been increasingly sought out by Brazilians and Latin Americans in general. Data from Brazilian Federal Reserve Service showed that in July 2024, 4.1 million individuals registered transactions with digital assets. Notably, dollar tether transactions represent more than 90% of the amount traded by Brazilians. A AAA survey from May 24th found that 26 million Brazilians invested in the digital asset market. This figure represents around 8% of the country's population. In addition, curious cases of adoption have emerged in recent years. Several reports indicate that dollar stablecoins have been used to trade at 25 de Marco, Brazil's largest street mall, located in Sao Paulo. Here's a picture of apparently the mall, or that would be at least maybe the marketplace they mean by mall. The adoption of stables in emerging markets is highly positive for the U.S. economy. This is because the dollar stables are predominantly backed by U.S. government bonds. In this way, they're helping to monetize U.S. federal government debt. At the same time, the adoption of stables is contributing to the deterioration of the national currency. This is because many Brazilians continue to exchange the local currency for digital dollars, which tends to influence the broader Forex market. But, I don't blame them. In the first quarter of 2023, USDT dominated cryptocurrency and stablecoin transactions in Brazil with a total of 37 million reals, which represent 81% of the total value traded in cryptocurrency and stable coins in the first quarter. While Brazilian banks are still trusted as safe havens for money, there's a growing market of residents using USDT for quick access and easy access to the financial system. That's why partnerships like Smart Pays with Tether, which enables USDT access at more than 24,000 ATMs across the country, are so important for residents who prefer to use Tether tokens via Pix to pay their bills or goods and services. Again, if your currency is in a hyperinflationary state or in any inflationary state, and let's just talk about not just Brazil, but once Trump started talking about tariffs with all the countries around the world, let's face it, we saw the Canadian dollar down about 10 or 15% over just a week or so. We saw the Australian, New Zealand, I'm not sure what's happening with China, but I presume, their currencies being hit as well. So, everybody could have benefited with a little tether. And you certainly could have benefited with a little bit of Bitcoin because, Bitcoin's been holding steady, actually increasing way beyond even the US dollar. So, yeah, if you're in a country around the world that has issues with their currency, it's, I think, in your best interest to make that play. And you're working folks, and you're getting paid every 2 weeks or every week or every month. Yeah, taking that paycheck and putting 50%, 80%, even 100%, depending on which country you're in, into a stable coin. Why wouldn't it make sense? The rest of the country is getting poorer by leaving their money in their standard local currency, and you're getting richer just by allowing time to pass. Interesting time, people. So let's go into our next story of the day, which is a good news story. Bitcoin price at 321,000 this cycle. Analyst says it's the math. Crypto analyst Tony Severino has provided an ultra-bullish outlook for the Bitcoin price, predicting that the flagship crypto could rally as high as 321,000. The analyst admitted that this target was too high for BTC, but added that it was simply the math. Wait a second now. Let me check my target. And my target was, okay, I thought for a minute my target was 325, but it's 375. All right. It's the math, he says. Bitcoin price to reach 321,000 in this market cycle. In a Substack post, Tony Severino predicted that the Bitcoin price would rally as high as 321 in this bull run. This came as the analyst highlighted a potential head and shoulders pattern that had formed on Bitcoin's chart. That's been forming for a long time. The analyst claimed that if this bullish pattern was valid, and why wouldn't it be, then it projects a maximum target of 321,000 per Bitcoin. Severino admitted that this price target for Bitcoin is too high, but remarked that it's the math. Interestingly, the crypto analyst went on to give a higher price prediction for the flagship crypto based on another bullish pattern. According to him, Bitcoin could reach as high as 345,000 if it touches the upper boundary of the primary uptrend channel over the last 8 years or thereabouts. Here we go. Oh, tell me the chart's not looking a lot like my chart. Meanwhile, Severino also provided more conservative targets for the Bitcoin price. The analyst predicted that BTC could at least touch 158,000. This came as he noted that the 21 cycle peak inverse Fibonacci extension could project to the 2025 cycle peak. If so, he stated that the peak inverse Fib extension is located among the lowest estimates for Bitcoin at 158,000. The crypto analyst further remarked that another method of using the 1.618 Fib extension involves projecting the target from the peak of wave 3 from the bottom of wave 1. Based on this, he added that this calls for a potential target price of 194,000. Severino provided another version that projects the 1.61 Fibonacci extension from the top of the subwave 3 of the 5 to the bottom of subwave 1 of 5. If this plays out, BTC could reach a slightly lower target of 186,000. Lastly, the crypto analyst also raised the possibility of Bitcoin price peaking at 191,000. He highlighted a bull pattern, which, if valid, could send the BTC to this target. BTC's price action in the short term stated that they support a level at 98,000 where more than 101 were accumulated. Yeah, so there's other things at play here. Okay, very nice. Severino, his prediction, the math points at 301 at 21,000. I agree with that. I just did a very quick little chart here, halving cycles, halving cycle, first halving cycle was 19x, then 8x, then 7x. And so it's going, a little down. So I predicted 3.5x, which would bring the price to 220,000, and if we went a 6x, then we're talking 371,000. So his prediction is somewhere in here, 320. So that we'll call it about a 5x, which is in line with the historical patterns as well. There's certainly much more bullish predictions. They're not talking about 3x and 5x and 300,000. They're talking about 500,000 and 700,000 and 1 million, and this is coming from much more prominent analysts than this guy here. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. If the U.S. right now, it's a bit of a waiting game. As I covered a couple days ago, Trump passed a bill to run an investigation for 180 days to see if it's reasonable or a good idea to use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve. If in 180 days they come back and say yes, and I don't see why they would come back and say no, to be honest. So, 180 days brings us right into July, February, March, April, May, June, July. So 180 days would be the week somewhere in between I think it was on the 23rd. So July 23rd is when they're going to come back with this decision. If not earlier, they have a max of 180 days. So they might come back and say, yep, done deal. Yeah, we should do it. So I expect at that point, once that's announced, then we're talking a big pump. And these numbers that this guy's coming up with, I feel, are pretty conservative compared to what potentially could happen. You saw we did the math there. If they really want to pay the debt off, Bitcoin needs to get to 36 million, and that would then pay off their $36 trillion debt right away if they held 1 million Bitcoin. So interesting to see how this is going to play out. Hopefully you guys had fun today, and please remember, we're always talking about money here, and we're always talking about Bitcoin. So everyone remember, money is everywhere. It's time that's scarce, so spend your time wisely. Spend less money than what you earn, and you're always going to stay in the green. If you start making more money, start saving more money, not spending more money. And start saving early. Start saving when you're 16, when you're 20, when you start working. The money your grandmother gives you, save that. And you can definitely retire when you're 40 years old. Also, if you've got a great idea, don't hold back. Start it immediately. Start today. If you're not ready, it doesn't matter. Start today, and eventually you will be ready, and things will come together after a couple failures. You'll say, oh, okay, this is now the right way to do it. Hopefully you guys found this stream enjoyable. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thank you so much for joining.